let in. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to turn my webcam on first, though, so you can actually look at me. Sorry about that. Good afternoon, AAA members, and welcome to the end of day 3 of our virtual Traveler Showcase. Before we begin, I want to go over some quick housekeeping with you all. You will be muted throughout the presentation today. So if you have any questions, please feel free to type them into the questions box and we will answer as many as we can at the end. I see that there's a few coming through already, so thank you for sending those in. There are also handouts included in the presentation that you're more than welcome to download and keep. Our AAA travel professionals also have access to these handouts and they can walk you through all the details. This presentation is being recorded today, and we will be sending you a link to the recording by email after the event. There will also be a short survey included in the email as well, so if you could take a few moments and complete that survey for us, your feedback is greatly appreciated. We have presentations for the Traveler Showcase through January 28th, that's next Thursday, and we also have 3 this Saturday. So if you would like to see the full schedule of presentations and RSV for the show, you can do so at aaa.com/traveler showcase. And finally, we will have information about how you can get in touch with our knowledgeable AAA travel professionals at the end of the presentation today. And with that, I am so excited to have Oceania Cruises here with us today to talk about some fantastic ocean cruise itineraries. Formed in 2002, Oceania Cruises is the world's largest upper premium cruise line. Featuring a fleet of small, luxurious ships, Oceania Cruises offers an unrivaled vacation experience, renowned for its gourmet culinary program and offers an array of destination-rich itineraries spanning the globe. Seasoned world travelers are drawn to Oceania Cruises' diverse voyages, which call on more than 400 ports across Europe, Asia, Africa, Australia, New Zealand, the South Pacific, and the Americas. It is my pleasure to introduce our guest speaker today, Kathy, I'm not going to say it right. Tell me.
Dan Roche.
Dan Roche.
You can just call me Kathy, Nathan.
Kathy, who is our regional marketing director for AAA's preferred travel partner, Oceania Cruises. Thanks for joining us today, Kathy.
Oh, you're so welcome. And hi, everybody. Thank you so much for attending this great show. I know that AAA is such a huge partner to Oceania Cruises, and I want to take my hats off to Nathan and the whole team of AAA advisors that help bring and deliver incredible dreams to you every single day. And I know while we aren't really delivering dreams at this very moment, we are really seeing some fantastic planning coming into shape for this next year. I just want to say that I live here in Vancouver, British Columbia. I've covered the Pacific Northwest for many, many years. I love Oregon and Idaho and Washington states, and it's been so wonderful to reconnect with our great partners here. But I just want to say that, 44 years ago, I started in the cruise industry in Vancouver. I started with the Love Boat, and it was really the Love Boat. We had 2 ships in our fleet, and we started a TV show that got really the whole world cruising. And so you kind of think from 44 years ago, right, the span of now to where, at that time there were maybe 5 cruise lines, and now you look at it and there's over 50 cruise lines and over 250 ships to choose from. And the importance of having an amazing advisor to really help you plan and discover where you want to go is just means the world to me, because especially since we have seen what happened in 2020 at the beginning of the year when people were stranded and couldn't get home. The fact that they had an advisor, they could just phone and say, please get me home on a repatriation flight, or help me get to, my home as soon as you can, it was just amazing. So our travel partners are the most important segment. They're the glue that keep the whole entire industry together. And today what I want to do is just help you plan and maybe discover what small ship cruising is all about. Do you know that when I look back at the industry and I think how incredibly huge this travel business is, in fact, It's the second largest industry in the world. In fact, the world couldn't survive without the travel industry. You think about a ship or resort counts on taxi drivers, airports, resorts, hotels, everything in order to even get to a ship. And then you kind of look at all the people, all the vendors, all the little shops that we go to as we visit ports around the world. The travel industry and the hospitality industry make up almost 20% of the whole world's population. So it's just a huge industry. And what we saw in 2020, when kind of the bottom of the earth fell through with COVID-19 and people had to stop traveling and we could just dream and we could remember where we had come from and where we're going back to, is the fact that, one of the things that came around was the pendulum kind of stopped. It swung over to the far left and, no one could travel. But now what we're seeing, and the pendulum will always swing back and forth, that this industry's been hit with everything you could ever imagine for many, tens and tens of years. And while it's a very resilient industry, we're starting as an industry to see this pendulum swing back. And as Nathan will, confirm, the future is incredibly bright. We're seeing fantastic shards of light at the end of the tunnel and really exciting numbers. I want to tell you about that. See, ships are incredibly safe to sail on. When I started 44 years ago with the Love Boat, we were one of the few, parts of the industry. In fact, we're the only entity in the industry next to hospitals and care homes that have to report illnesses to the CDC. So we've always, as a cruise industry, being, kind of been very responsible about really clean and safe ships to sail on. And you think about it and you think the airlines don't have to do that, hotels don't have to do that, resorts don't have to do that, escalators, elevators, BC ferries, Washington ferries, anything that you look at, they don't have to report their illnesses or viruses to anybody, but cruise ships do. And that's a really big thing when I start to talk about Oceania, because cruising is incredibly safe. Now, what's going to happen, and I'm going to tell you about our healthy protocol coming up at the end of the presentation, is how incredibly important it is to know that where we've come from and where we're going to in health protocols is going to be even better than before. Cruising is going to be amazing when we start to sail again. So when it comes to Oceania, I have to say, I've been here for almost 12 years. I had been with Crystal Cruises for 18 years before this, way up at the top of this luxury end of the market. But I was watching in 2003 when Nathan said, like, we've started this beautiful little company called Oceania Cruises. They had 3 tiny little ships. In fact, 3 of them could fit into any big ship that you see sailing into the waters of Oregon. And you kind of look and see, wow, these are small ships, and small ships mean that we can get into ports that the big ships can't get into. So I was watching Oceania, and I knew from being a veteran in the industry how incredibly amazing the itineraries that they offered were. So I watched for a few years while Oceania had started. And do you know that in the first 9 months of Oceania's existence, they said, we're going to do things just a little bit differently. We're not going to be the kind of premium partners, the kind of big Holland American Princess and Celebrity that do such an amazing job of big ships. And we don't want to be all inclusive up in the 6-star market with all the luxury ships. We're going to wedge our way in the middle, and we're going to start this kind of a niche program called the upper premium market. And that meant that Oceania was going to include more than the premium market, but not quite as much as the luxury end. We weren't going to be all inclusive. And with that in mind, and 9 months into their operation, they became one of the 10 top cruise lines in the world. And they still exist as the leader of the upper premium market for many reasons. And I'm going to tell you about those because I absolutely love this little cruise line and the beautiful attention to detail about it. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our cuisine and our travel experiences and, of course, the value. And but I want to kind of get started because I know we don't have all day, and I could always talk for a long time. You can tell I'm a chatty person. But I do want to tell you that when you look at any cruise line, you look at these incredible strengths that we all have, and we have incredible differences. And that's what is so cool about cruising now. Back in the Love Boat days, when I first started, as I said, there was only 5 cruise lines. There was a lot of destinations we didn't even go to. All of a sudden, in the last 40 years, you've got river cruises and ocean cruises and barge cruises and big ships and little ships and all sorts of different kinds of differences within each of these segments, markets. And what I love about it is it means that we as consumers have a lot of choice. We have an incredible amount of choice. And that's what I love about AAA, because they can pinpoint you to the perfect vacation for you, whether it's Oceania or somebody else. The big thing about Oceania, and what I was drawn to, was the small ship luxury side of them. See, when I say that 3 little ships could fit on any big ship that you see in the harbor, it meant that there were no lineups, there were no crowds, it was fewer people. In fact, each one of our little ships, and we have 4 of them now, and another 2 ships that are a little bit bigger that I'm going to tell you about, was they only held 670 guests. It was perfect size for me as I started entering into my late 50s and kind of going, wow, this is a very beautiful experience to be able to come on a small ship and be able to go into these ports that other ships couldn't get into. So we had these 3 pillars that we stood on. This was the hearth of Oceania. This was something we never change, as we want to keep small. We don't ever want to be a big, huge line. We want to keep our ships incredibly small and really intimate and really detailed to the attention for each of our guests. And so we didn't have age limits. We didn't have anything like that. We said we're going to knock out a lot of things that the premium lines do, and we're not going to include as much as the luxury lines, but we're going to do something that's really incredibly different. So we started out with 3 little ships, and now we're at 6 ships, and we're building another 2 over into 2023. And that'll mean that these little ships of either 680 guests or 1,200 guests on our Marina and Riviera ships are absolutely amazing. You can get to know the ship in 40 minutes. You walk around, and out of that 680 guests, 400 staff members are there to look after you. That means for every 1.5 of you, there's someone looking after you. So that means there are no lineups or crowds. And it means the choice is a lot different when you get on a small ship. So we're kind of that start of the 6-star luxury market. But with small ships came another thing, and that was the destinations themselves. Meant that when we could curate travel experiences for people, we could go into very kind of heavily based destination immersion. We could go into ports of call that, you know, as I said, other ships couldn't get into. But not only that, we could make it extensive itineraries. We didn't have to be just 7 and 14 days. We specialized in 20 and 30 and 60 and 80 days. And even right now, we go up to 180 days. But each of these marquee little ports, these little boutique places that we go to, are pretty specialized. And we go into a lot of places that are incredibly kind of known to Oceania. And so our itineraries became incredibly famous, very port intensive, not a lot of time at sea. In fact, when we go into the Mediterranean now, into the, you know, we kind of have 1 day at sea out of a 12-day average cruise. So we really keep port intensive. And it meant that we could be unique in the way we offered our cruises. And I'm going to tell you about that. And the third pillar was, and it's never the reason you ever actually buy a cruise, but it's the reason that you come back to the cruise. Because let's face it, no matter who you've sailed on out there, I bet the food has been really good. But with Oceania, it's what we call our cruise line for foodies. That's how we tout ourselves officially. We said that we were going to be a cruise line that wasn't about luxury gourmet, but it was about open dining restaurants, that we got rid of, you know, casual two-seating dining. And we were the first cruise line to bring out this, what we called country club casual attire. So it meant that we got rid of suits and jackets and long gowns. And we said, we're going to have a really nice dressed casual crowd, because we're going to be port intensive, but we're also going to give them the food choices that they like. So we even have a vegan galley on board that offers 250 different kinds of plant-based foods. So everything about Oceania is fresh, everything's made on board, and we want to be the cruise line for foodies. So this is where we started. We kind of said, we're going to have these exquisite little ships. But when I look at Oceania now, everybody, I look and I see, wow, this is compared to all the big ships. And believe me when I tell you, over 44 years, I've sailed on all the cruise lines, and I love them all. And the only reason I tell you that is because I understand how incredible each cruise line is. But as I get into my 60s now and into my mid 60s, I go, for me personally, when I'm on a vacation, I want to go into a bar at night, and I want to be able to know that that bartender remembers me and remembers what I drink. When I go into a restaurant, I want them to remember that I have my latte with, you know, whatever extra foam or whatever it is. And so When I look at small, it doesn't mean stuffy or formal. It means that it's just more intimate. It means that it's really geared towards that personal relationship on board with our guests. And so when I look at our regatta class ships, we have 4 beautiful little ships: the Regatta, the Nautica, the Insigne, and the Sirena. And these are 680 guests. And so it's pretty amazing when I see how beautiful they are. And I'm going to show you a picture as we move into some of our destinations. But when you walk back onto these ships, every single one of them has been redone. There's only one ship outstanding that's going to be done this spring, the Nautica. And we took each of these ships and we revamped them. We re-inspired them to become this beautiful era of elegance and gorgeous, soft, muted colors. And so they brought up to the Marina and Riviera standards, but you can walk around the ship in 40 minutes and you get to know it very well. It's like someone's home. We even have fireplaces on our ships, and they don't work, of course, but they give you the feeling that you're in someone's home. So I love the intimacy of these ships. And I came over to Oceania from Crystal because we were building these 2 ships, the Marina and the Riviera. These are 1,200 guests. These are 60,000 tons, twice as large as our small ships, but they were still considered small in the industry. And what I loved about them is that they were so incredibly contemporary, yet incredibly warm. Now, I always laugh at pictures when you see like this at the pool and there's nobody sitting out there. That isn't how it happens at Oceania. But one of the things that I will say is the difference between big ships and little ships is the fact that if you walked out on deck right now, onto this beautiful deck, there'd be lots of people out there, but you would never have to reserve your chaise. You would never have to leave a book or your shoes, your towel on there, because there's so much space for fewer people. And that's the one difference when you look at smaller ships, is that you've got a lot of space to roam around and the beautiful detail of attention. When I think about our residential design on board the ships, it makes me feel like I'm in someone's home. And when I look at the art, this is the one thing that I can tell you we did so differently than any other cruise line. We said we weren't going to be a cruise line that actually had art auctions. We got rid of those. We got rid of putting announcements on the ship. We got rid of all sorts of things. But what we did say is that we were going to fill each one of our ships with unique original artwork. So we have original Monets, we have original Murray sculptures, we have Picasso painting, we have all sorts of things. So when you come on the ship, there's $5 to $7 million of original artworks on each one of our ships. And when I look at this Cuban gentleman at the bottom left-hand side of your screen, and I think some of the great art that we went all over the world to curate some of the best artworks, that you can take an AudioVox tour around the ship and see some of these great, magnificent masterpieces. And then we've got, of course, Lalique. Everywhere, crystal, silver, everything like that. So it's a beautiful, beautiful designed ship. And when I come into our staterooms and I think how beautifully equipped they are, whether they've got binoculars or on umbrellas, we've thought of everything, refrigerators stocked full of non-alcoholic beverages, because all those are included. See, we said as a cruise line, what we're going to do is we're going to start to look and see what our guests want. I always say Oceania is one of those cruise lines that really includes things that are really important to travelers, not just things that are important to travel in general, but things that are important to people who have traveled before, whether it's, including shuttles in and out of each of our cities, so we don't have to pay for that. So when we come into places like Venice, we aren't charging you to get into St. Mark's Square. Now that we have to dock almost 40 minutes out, we have enough transportation to take you in and out of St. Mark's Square. When we come into Dubrovnik and we dock there, where we kind of take you in, and it's complimentary shuttles in and out of all the cities. We said we don't want to charge for laundry. That should be something that's included. We don't want to charge for coffees and teas and soft drinks and bottled water. And by the way, we were the first cruise line to get rid of all of our plastic bottles of water. We've gone to glass bottles, and we've saved 3 million plastic bottles of water a year. So we are a very green company, and we're doing things that are incredibly important to travelers. So when I come to our service, and it means frette sheets and the beautiful appointments of everything that when you walk onto this ship, and you even have afternoon tea, and it's the cruise line for foodies, so you can imagine the choice you have. The service is unbelievable. And when it comes to food, because as I said at the beginning, it's not the reason you buy a cruise, but it's the reason you will always come back and rate it. I can only tell you that the choice on board our ships is amazing. We said two things when we started. We were going to get rid of 1 and 2 seatings. We just said it's going to be open dining. We're going to come between 6 and 10 o'clock at night. You can have a table for 2, 4, 6, or 8, or whatever you wanted. Sometimes the maitre d' will say, do you mind, Kathy, waiting for 15 minutes, or can I put you into one of the other specialty restaurants? But we all have a choice to dine in 4 to 6 restaurants, and they are stunningly beautiful, and they're small. And so I love this, because when you look at not only the 1 and 2 seatings gone, we also said we're going to get away with formal wear. We're not going to have any more formal, evenings. As I mentioned, we're going to have a beautifully dressed crowd, but just somebody who wants to come back to the ship, maybe from Venice, sightseeing in Venice, and just be able to come and sit and relax in one of the restaurants. And part of the reason we have the success we have is our culinary team. Right here, the gentleman on the right you see is Jacques Pepin. You've heard of him before. He's cooked with Julia Child. He was Charles de Gaulle's head chef. For 3 other French heads of state, he was also their chef. Jacques is a person I've known for many years, but he's one of the greatest chefs on earth. And it's because he really understands what fresh food means, and things that could be made on the ship, and things that are interesting and different and yet familiar with people. Because we all, when we do come back to sail, we all want a little bit of familiar, but we want it to taste so good. You might not remember the color of your bed sheets, or the color of the chair in your stateroom, but you'll always remember on any vacation if the food was good or bad. And you never ever have to worry with Oceania whether you're going into our Toscana or Italian restaurant, or our Polo Grill, which is our grill restaurant, or just in our beautiful continental dining room. It's amazing. And so the choice you have on board is fantastic. And each ingredient that we have is just the very best you can see. We have things from just our table settings, which are beautiful, whether you come into, we want it to be a wow every night when you come in. So it's whether it's Riedel crystal and silverware and everything like that, right up to, kind of the choices we have with plant-based cuisine, or the culinary center on our marina and Riviera, where 24 people can do cooking classes. And these we charge for. They're about $60 for a 2-hour class. We lock the doors, and it's all including your liquor and everything, and you have so much fun. And so what goes on in the culinary center stays there. But we have 6 different classes that we offer, and they're pretty amazing. We have a pairing menu. This is the only time we, on the marina and the Riviera, that we actually charge you to dine in a little restaurant. These are kind of picnic style tables with 24 people total. And these are called our beautiful La Reserve pairings. And so this is with wine and with, different pairings on each of 6 or 7 courses. And so we have a Jacques Pepin Bourgeois, we have a Dom Perignon tasting menu, everything. And so they're perfect for those of you who are interested in pairing, or coming into the chef market dinners. And these are kinds of where our chefs come off the ship, and you can go with them to market. You can come and see what we're, kind of offering each night, and we change it up. And so what I love about our cuisine is it's part of our DNA at Oceania, but it's not the most important, but it's one of the 3 top most important things, is offering this incredible personal experience on a small ship with outstanding food. So it's, again, things, and I want to tell you, there's entertainment, there's enrichment lectures, there's everything we do. We're known for our enrichment lectures. When I came 12 years ago, our entertainment wasn't that great, but all of a sudden, it is outstanding for a small ship. We don't have the big space to do kind of the big Cirque du Soleil shows that the big ships do. But on a small ship, you don't have that kind of space. But we do really tasteful shows, and I think people are really loving them. Our guests really love them now. But what we all came here for today was not only to hear about Oceania, but let's talk about some of the destinations, because when Nathan and the team had first asked me to talk about Oceania, they said, can you kind of focus on, some of your top destinations being the South Pacific, maybe a little bit of South Pacific. I said, oh yes, I'd love to talk about them. But I have to tell you, with Oceania, what I love about this cruise line is with 6 little ships. We sail all over the world. The only place we don't sail to is the Antarctic. We go into the Antarctic waters, but we never go right down to the Antarctic. We go everywhere else. So when I say that we circumnavigate Australia, which I'm going to show you today, and Africa and South America, we do Alaska, and we come up to Canada, New England, we go up to Greenland and Iceland, and that very little tiny red blob at the top there. And then we go into the Svalbard, the North Cape, and all through Europe and all the way down. We go everywhere, and we go in beautiful short stints. So it's not a cruise line that you're going to see for months and months sitting in one area, but it's a cruise line that has amazing itineraries and really varied itineraries in each part of the world we go to. So our cruises range from 7 to 180 days. Our average cruise, and I really don't think you can sail on Oceania for less than 12 or 14 days. And this last year, I started telling all of my travel advisors out there right across British Columbia and Alberta and Washington and Oregon and everything to just say, why go home? Let's start a promotion that says, why go home? Because every time I'm on one of our ships, probably a good 18 to 30 couples or singles will say, keep me on the next sailing. I don't want to get off. I want to keep going. And so our cruise itineraries are designed so you can take them back to back, but we really truly go everywhere. And when Nathan, as I said, asked me to kind of talk about the South Pacific, I said, okay, well, let's talk about where the trends are. So at Oceania, when we back up to this last March in 2020, we looked and said, where do we want to take people? Where are people asking to go to? Because while we as consumers may look and say, well, no one's traveling right now, and that's true, no one is traveling right now because we can't, there will be. And that pendulum, as I said at the very beginning, is starting to swing big time, and the doors are blowing off into 2022 and beyond. So what I want to talk about are the top trends that we at Oceania saw. In the 5 top trends of people asking for itineraries, we have the Mediterranean and Northern Europe and Baltic. I'm going to show you one of those itineraries. But we had a huge top trend for people saying, I want to go to Australia. I want to go to New Zealand. I want to go to the South Pacific and Tahiti and Hawaii. So I want to tell you a little bit about these itineraries because that's what I'm going to focus on today. I want to start, and I'm just going to zip you around kind of the South Pacific. And I know that I'm really watching time. We've got about 10 minutes or so left. I really want to talk to you about some of these beautiful itineraries because we take 2 of our ships in through the South Pacific, one on a full around the world cruise that you can take segments of, and one of our beautiful little ships that's sitting right in your backyard right now, the Regatta, waiting in Astoria to wait to see where we can go to in the short next while. So when I talk about Tahiti, and I don't know if any of you have ever gone there, it is 2.5 million square kilometers of France sitting in the middle of nowhere, right under Honolulu. And so as someone of my girlfriends many years ago who worked for a cruise line down in Seattle, she said, you know, Kath, when I think about it, it's only really 2.5 cocktails past Honolulu on a plane. So Tahiti's an amazing place to get to. And it's absolutely one of the most beautiful, legendary places. It's like a paradise that maybe Hawaii was, 10,000 years ago. When I look at our itineraries in Tahiti, you think of very small ships like Paul Gauguin. But when you think of a smaller ship like, the Regatta, our 30,000-ton ship, 680 guests coming into this beautiful little area, we cover so much of the French Polynesian islands, and it's beautiful. So I want to tell you a little bit about some of these 2022 itineraries. And actually, on March 3rd, this coming in another month and a bit, we're going to announce all our 2023 winter tropics and exotics. So you're going to see a lot of South Pacific in those as well. So keep in mind, if there's an itinerary that you see here and it may be sold out for 2022, we're going to have a lot of it for 2023. So we go to beautiful places like Rangiroa and French Polynesia. These are the places we come into, and we anchor out in these ports, and all you see are these gorgeous clear turquoise waters, and you can swim as far as the reef goes, and you never have to worry about having anything attack you. But it's pretty amazing to be able to go and just sit in a beach or go snorkeling or be able to come on a picnic, take a picnic off the ship. This is Bora Bora. When we come to the island of Moorea, we've got the beautiful mountainside of Bali High that's about 3 times the size of this in Bora Bora. And you can do walking tours through bamboo forests and kind of beautiful short excursions that we have. You can go on historic World War II kind of itineraries. You can go on what they're doing environmentally. We're going to have all sorts of different kinds of short excursions for your interest. But what I love about our Tahiti programs is not only do we just concentrate on French Polynesia, but to get there, we might have a look at some of the itineraries that take you from Honolulu right over to Tahiti. So this is one of the ones I want to show you in 2022 in January, where we leave from Los Angeles, come all the way down through Hawaii, gorgeous, into this outstanding area of Tahiti and all the way to Auckland. So we're seeing Fiji and Samoa and beautiful places like that. And this is 28 days. And it's amazing if you've ever sailed on 10 days, and most of the time you want to go on 14 days. If you've sailed on 14 days, most of the time you want to go 18 or 20 days. 28 days is so fast like this. It's amazing. And it just flies past you. But this is a cruise. Now with Oceania, what I want to tell you about is we include your air out of Portland, and we take you on the most fast, non-stop flight we can get to, direct flight. When it comes to Tahiti, we have to use Air Tahiti Nui. There's not enough regular scheduled airlines coming through those areas, so we put you on a flight down to Tahiti. When this is an itinerary, what AAA can do for you is either extend on pre or post side of your cruise by 3 weeks either side. It's called our custom air program, but we include your air within all our prices. So we've got our air, our taxes, our cruise. And I'm going to tell you about the other inclusions we have. So we come through places like Auckland, home of all the beautiful lines. And then we come into Milford Sound, famous for its fjords. There's a few glacial areas you might want to cruise to. And one of them should be New Zealand if you've never done Milford Sound. This is one of the most beautiful fjord areas in the world. This is where Lord of the Rings was filmed. And you can imagine some of the mountain caps, and you just come in on a sunny day where it's just mountains on either side of you into these deep cut fjords, and it's stunning. So we do Milford Sound, we do Auckland to Sydney. So you can continue on all these different beautiful itineraries, or we can fly you from, again, Oregon into Auckland and home from Sydney, or you can stay either side of your itinerary. So this is a 14-day cruise, one of the most fantastic itineraries because we hit Tasmania. So, again, you can mix and match, but look at this itinerary starting in Sydney and goes all the way over to Tahiti. So when I think about going into Mystery Island and going into Nuumea and into Latoka and Suva and Fiji and all the way over to Pago Pago in Samoa and over to Papeete, it's a pretty amazing tour. And it's a pretty amazing kind of historic run as well. But these are the kinds of things that you see. This is our beautiful little regatta sailing into Sydney, coming into places like Melbourne, Australia, coming all the way from Auckland all the way up to Tokyo. You might want to say, hey, I want to go from and I might have 43 days. And listen, it's easy. After you've done 20 days, 43 days is nothing. If you've done 43 days, 180 days around the world is really nothing. So it's pretty cool. But these are kind of some of the options, everybody, that you have on when we come into some of the areas. And this little tiny ship I love. This is our Nautica. And 4 of these ships are identical ships. And we've done all of them. And they're just so beautiful. But when I say small, I mean, last year I was in Victoria, the year before 2019, and it was during our Alaska season. And here where I was on the regatta, and 30,000 tons, and I was docked between one of the big Royal Caribbean ships and one of the Princess ships. And I thought to myself, wow, this is pretty amazing. 3 of these ships could fit into these big ships. So we're really, really small and intimate. And when I say that we have privacy and we have room to move and all the kinds of things that you're going to see, there is nothing like coming outside and having someone take your plate of whatever you've ordered, and if it's not on the menu, we'll find it for you, and from our grill menu, and just sitting and having dinner or lunch or breakfast out on the deck, just whether it's the 2 of you or you want to meet new friends. It's pretty cool. When I talk about Sydney to Sydney, I was telling you just a bit earlier, everybody, that we circumnavigate Australia. So this is one of my favorite itineraries. It's always a sure sellout. It's 35 days right around, but I love it because we also go up to Darwin, we go over to Bali, and all the way way down into Tasmania and back up to Sydney. So these are things that you'll see in 2022, 2023, all sorts of things. So we've got lots of options for you to take, whether it's a segment of that around Australia into 14 days, or whether it's coming up to the Gold Coast and seeing Brisbane, or coming around to Broome and Perth, some of the most beautiful areas. If you've been to Perth, it's much like our Pacific Northwest kind of coastline. It's absolutely beautiful. And then being able to travel around into some of these gorgeous cities is something else. So Singapore to Sydney, you can add a little bit of Asia on. You can add all sorts of things that you might not have thought of before that were possible. One of my really beautiful sailings that I love is sailing from Perth to Tokyo. Now, this is, again, we include your air, we include your taxes, we include your cruise, and we include a lot of other things. But these are kinds of the options that you have. And when it comes to Asia, just, leaving a little bit of the South Pacific behind, one of the things I always think about with Japan, especially, and we're doing some beautiful round trip Japan cruises over the next couple of years, is that people come for the cherry blossoms. And this is why when you see a picture like this, so you see the cherry blossoms in the gardens alone in Tokyo and Nara and Kira and places like that we take you to, in Mount Fuji and the bullet train and things that you don't ever really get to see this kind of scenery in the summertime, but in the springtime when we go there, it's beautiful. So what I've kind of shown you a very quick glance of some of our highlights of the South Pacific, even though they're kind of late 21 and into 22. If there's something you're interested in, ask your AAA advisor. They can give you all sorts of things. And finally, just a real quick view into Europe. We've got a brand new launch that we just did in the late fall, where we're taking you into kind of beautiful areas of Europe that you might be familiar with and still want to go back there. So there's only a couple of little things I want to show you. One of them being one of my favorite cruises, and because Oceania is a small cruise line, there's a lot of itineraries, even the South Pacific, that we do a one-off itinerary. So it means that there's only one sailing in that whole year, and this is one of them I'm going to show you. Because we include your air, because we include this beautiful small ship, we're taking you on the Sirena. This is a 680 guest ship as well. So we start out in Stockholm, and for 20 days, we come right up to the top of the North Cape. This is when I look at Archangel, and I think in the kind of 1500s, explorers were walking on these huge sheets of ice to think that there was land at the North Cape, and yet it was this big ice shield. So we take you right up to the top. This is where the sun doesn't go down, for 20 days. It's amazing. And these are some of the fjords that you see in Norway. This is one of the most beautiful cruises, and we come through Oslo. We come into some of the most beautiful cities in the Baltics and Scandinavia, and people are so friendly, and the food is so delicious. And so there's all sorts of choices for you. I wanted to throw that little itinerary in just because I know that if I just talk about the South Pacific, you might think we only go there. We go all over the world. And we're just this next week launching our 2023 Around the World cruise in 180 days. And in March, when we launch all of our tropics and exotics, things that are itineraries similar to this that I've been telling you about, we will actually sell some of the segments of the World Cruise that you can get on for 14 and 18 days. But we're going to be with a beautiful, beautiful itinerary. Now, I want to just kind of shift gears because I'm telling you just specific itineraries, but I want to tell you about the rest of what we have together on Oceania, and that is when you get on one of our ships. We don't know, and I'm going to talk to you about the health protocols coming up here very, very shortly, but when we come, we're thinking about right now, but when I look into 2021, the end of 21, 2022, when our ships will be sailing again, I look and I think, gee, will we all have to get off the ship in a group in order to get off a ship in a port? We don't know that yet, but right now we're planning so many tours based on 14 to 16 people max, and they're called Go Local. Oceania's had these for a number of years, but I have to say these are geared to 10 to 16 guests, and whether it's bicycling in Amsterdam or going on an environmental tour to see wind turbines, or going into just walking foodie tours, or going into historic World War II kind of tours. These are all things that we will have for you. And actually, whether you're kind of an Epicurean kind of foodie person that wants to go on a market tour with one of our chefs, or you want to go on a yoga exploration into, Lokrima Island outside of Dubrovnik to just do yoga in amongst the olive trees, or whether you're a curious adventure, more like based on maybe the green side of things, the environmental side of things. These are all things that we've put into plans. Whether you just want to sit in a cafe and, be able to shop is something that will come back for sure. It just might be in a group at this moment. But I think when vaccines hit and we all start to have this incredible confidence of sailing again, you're going to see a big difference from even now to then. So for every kind of seeker that you are, we have something for you. We have over 3,000 tours and excursions for you, whether they're based on food, whether they're based on just going on a beautiful sightseeing tour, whether they're an exclusive with 10 guests, whether they're food and wine or wellness. We have something for everybody, and that's something that your advisor will be able to tell you about. And finally, as I start to tell you just about some of the, kind of inspiration we've had since the early part of 2020 to help you be really confident in Oceania, to come on a small ship. And this is the other thing I want to tell you, is that we're seeing a huge trend right now, not only in destinations, but we're seeing a huge trend come to smaller ships from bigger ships. So 40% of all the bookings that Oceania is taking right now are people who have traveled on the big premium ships, and they're kind of going, let me have a little bird's eye view at a small ship. Give me an itinerary that's kind of based for a smaller ship. So we're really happy that if you've never sailed on Oceania, come and join our Oceania family and look. But we want to inspire you to be that we can be flexible with pricing. We can be flexible with our kind of assurance programs, and also with some of our itineraries. But we're never flexible with safety. And that's the one thing I want to tell you about. Back in March, and actually it really happened in June, we actually partnered with the Royal Caribbean Group, and for the first time under two huge cruise lines. And we said we are going to have a panel of scientists and environmental people and CDC, ex-CDC people. And we brought together 12 people from all over the world, and we brought out this program called Healthy Sail, protocol. And so 74 recommendations later, back in September, came and we handed them all to the CDC. And that made everybody sit up and go, these are things we've already done in the past, but this is what we're going to do. So I'll give you one example. We have a new air filtration system now that is the cleanest air that you can find on Earth, that'll be filtrated through our ships. That's all called Atmosair. It's a brand new system that Oceania is putting on all the ships. Every single one of these 74 items will be put into place. You can go online, you can look at Oceania Cruises, and at the bottom of our website, it'll show you the health and safety protocols. But I can assure you that these are changing every week, things that are changing to make your journey with us even better than before. So health protocols are huge. We never ever compromise on safety of our staff. We never compromise on the safety of our guests. We never compromise on the safety of Oceania. It's always incredibly safe to sail. And as our CEO of our company says, he won't sail until we can get his grandchild and his mother on board the ship to sail. So we will not do anything to compromise anybody's health. So you can be rest assured that with this already safe industry, it's going to be safer than ever before and better than ever before. Oceania came for you and said, for our guests, and said, we know that there's insurance programs you have, and AAA can help you with that. But we wanted to have a traveler's assurance program. It meant that if you book something now for 2022, and in 3 months before the sailing, we dropped the price, that we said, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to make sure that you always have the best price guarantee. We're always going to automatically fix the price of your cruise if we drop our price. Number two, we said, if you're under our TAP program, our travel assurance program, and you're paid in full, then you can cancel for any reason up to 15 days prior, just to make you feel comfortable, and that you would not have to be, there would be flexibility, and that you could either have a refund or a future cruise credit. So as we move along, we're starting to see that there's a lot of people with future cruise credits. If you're one of those guests, these are like cash to you. You should use it up and make sure that you sail sometime before 2022. So all these things we're always constantly looking at and evaluating and changing changing, but the real crunch comes with value. And I promise if you can stick with me for literally 2 more minutes, I'm going to just tell you about AAA and our partnership and the things that we have at Oceania. And one of them is that back in March, we said, you know, we want people to be able to feel comfortable sailing on Oceania. So we're going to drop our prices anywhere from 10 to 30% on every one of our sailings. And that's what we did. We wanted people to say, okay, we know that coming into the future, they're going to want value. So we did it. We called it the ultimate sale. It doesn't have a deadline. It's what we have. That's how we talk to you as guests. But we also said a couple of years ago, we wanted something that not only did we have our air and our taxes and our cruise, we wanted, and our, you know, all the things that came with that, you know, we had already had where we didn't charge you for any dining on our ship, no specialty restaurant charge. You could just go in. We had you know, this soft drinks and bottled water, as I said, and coffees and lattes and London fogs, anything you wanted. We didn't charge for that. We didn't charge for any bistro. We didn't charge anything on the ships as far as that. We just said we wanted to have this incredible feel of people having stuff that was already important to them included. But then we came up with O-Life Choice, and we said, you know, we want to make sure that people have the choice. We don't want to be all inclusive because there's guests on our ship that might not drink. There's guests on our ship that might not like shore excursions. There's guests on our ship that don't, you know, do either of those. So we wanted to give them your world, your way. That's our slogan at Oceania. It always has been from the beginning. So we said, not only are we going to do our air, not only are we going to have that, we're going to include internet for everybody. We're going to give you as a guest a choice of whether you want shore excursions or whether you want a beverage package, which is wine and beer at lunch or dinner for 20 bucks more a day. You can up that to a full liquor package. Or if you didn't want any of those, you could have a shipboard credit. So when I look at some of the itineraries we have with O-Life Choice, you know, it ranges from $400 up to, you know, $2,200 depending on how long the cruise is. And so we offer a choice of shore excursions with a variety of beautiful itinerary kind of shore excursions you can do. We offer the choice of the wine and beer at lunch or dinner. It's not like a river company who has maybe 2 different kinds of wines and a few different kinds of beer. This is a cruise line, because we're the cruise line for foodies, because we're the cruise connoisseur for wine with food, you know, Wine Spectator as our partner. We offer 15 different kinds of wine and literally about 12 different kinds of beer at lunch or dinner. And as I said, you can up that to have a full liquor package. Or if you're a person that's like me who says, well, I want to do a shore excursion that I want to do. I don't need all of them. I want to have a gin and tonic during the day. I'll have that if I don't want beer or wine at lunch or dinner. So I don't need that included. I'll use the shipboard credit and I'll use it how I want, because at the end of that cruise, it's just wiped off your bill. This is the kind of stuff we said. So we said, you know, starting with our late 21 itineraries into 2022 and 23, we now have free airport transfers as well. So not only do we include your air, we said we're going to start including your your airport transfers from the ship to the hotel or from the, you know, airport to the ship, whatever it was. We said we're going to offer you O-Life on every single sailing you have. But in fact, what we're going to do is always have these inclusive amenities for you, whether it's free internet, specialty restaurants, free dining, you know, kind of room service, shuttles in and out the city. Those are usually a cost of anywhere. I know in Venice alone, it's 30 euros to just get on one of the big ships on their transfers into St. Mark's Square. These are things that are included with Oceania. When it came to fitness, we said we're going to include those classes, from Pilates to exercise classes to anything. You don't have to pay for that. For all of our sparkling, you know, bottled water and sparkling, you know, soft drinks and specialty coffees and free laundry. That was what we said at Oceania. That's the value packed into these prices. And when it comes to AAA, one of the things I love about the AAA gang in Oregon is that we have exclusive amenities for them. So we include prepaid gratuities on over 70 sailings per year. And not only just prepaid gratuities, wine tasting with that. So as a guest, when you get on, you have all the other things that Oceania is already offering, but now you've got prepaid gratuities. And I can tell you, I get lots of calls from AAA saying, can you help me with my client? Can you give any more? Is there a better deal out there? And we'll do that. Or instead, on some sailings, there might be a $200 shipboard credit per stateroom. So that's also a great thing, because people take for granted what shipboard credits are. Those are credits that just come off the end of your bill. You can use it for a spa or a beautiful bottle of wine or 3 beautiful bottles of wine, whatever you want. And with this, whenever we do any kind of talk to our guests, we do kind of offer an additional $200. So you'll have your prepaid gratuities or your $200, and I'm going to throw in another $200 on top of that for your stateroom on when you book something with Oceania. So that's a value for gratuities up to, maybe $400 on an average 12-day cruise. That's the kind of thing that you'll save on. The value of working with AAA in Oregon and Idaho is absolutely amazing. The service you get, the knowledge of the advisors is so fantastic, everybody. So I want to say that, I hope, and I know I do talk a lot, I hope that you'll kind of think about where do you want to go? Where back to those familiar places do you want to see? Because the familiar that we know now is not going to be the familiar that you get to see again. I want to go back to Italy, but I know that next time I go to Italy, it's going to be different from the familiar I'm used to. It's going to be better than before. The future is incredibly bright and fantastic with all the cruise industry. I can tell you that. I see all the behind the scenes side of it, and I know that we're all working diligently to make sure that you are completely safe and happy with your travel experiences. So remember what you love about travel, and see that maybe if you want to go to the South Pacific or Tahiti or Hawaii or any of the, Australia into Asia, that whole kind of beautiful area of the world, that you get to do that with AAA, and anything that we can help to make that voyage even better, we're here for you. So I will end it with, staying healthy and positive and strong, because as one of my nieces said a while ago, the real marathon of any 26-mile marathon is the last 6 miles. And I feel we've gone 20 miles so far, and we haven't even really started the marathon. This next little few months, this is going to be the real marathon, because now we know what it's like to wait, but now we just have to wait a little bit longer. But the distance is much shorter in where we get to travel again. And that's the greatest part of seeing what I'm seeing in the industry, is that the demand to travel is blowing wide open, and the pendulum is swinging forth right to your doorstep. So if there's something you want, book it. Don't wait. It's not a sales pitch, but don't wait, because small ships do sell out. That's the one big difference between big ships and small ships, is that small ships have 680 or 1,200 guests on, and they're sometimes one-off itineraries. So, with that, I'll hand you back over to our dear Nathan and AAA. And if there's anything I could say, come over to and join our Oceania family. I know you're going to love being on our beautiful products. And if you have any future cruise credits, talk to your AAA advisor, kind of book up something that you want to see. So thank you all so much for listening. I know I've been talking for 50 minutes, so I'm sorry, Nathan.
No, you're just fine. And thank you so much for all the great information you shared with us today, Kathy.
Oh, you're welcome.
I guess I didn't realize how bad I needed a vacation until I saw some of those photos that you shared with us today. So consider me inspired. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
I did want to briefly mention our contact information here at AAA. So if you do want to get in contact with us after the event, you're more than welcome to call us by phone. Our 1-800 number is listed there, and that will put you in touch with a AAA travel professional in the nearest service center to you. If you've worked with one of our travel professionals before, you're more than welcome to reach out to them directly. If you haven't worked with one before, a good way to start is contacting us by email. Our email address is AAAtravel@AAAoregon.com. Just give us some basic information on what you're looking for, and we can definitely pass that information along to a travel professional that can help you. You're always more than welcome to visit us on our website, AAA.com, more specifically, AAA.com/travel. It has tons of great resources for you. It has all of our information about our travel partners, including Oceania, that you can check out. And then we did have some questions about our service centers right now. They are open to the public. We are asking that if you want to come in and talk with one of our travel professionals, that you call ahead and make an appointment beforehand, just so that we can kind of navigate how many people are coming in and out of our service centers. So kind of a strange time, so we're just making sure that everybody is as safe as possible. Thank you for everybody that has put in questions so far into the question box. I have a list here that I can go through with Kathy. If you do have any questions that you haven't answered in or put in yet, feel free to type those in and we can get to as many as we can here before we wrap up.
And if we can't, we'll definitely answer them for you after.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. One of the members had written in about the trip that went all the way around Australia. Is that
Hmm.
only offered once a year and is that just in December?
Yes, usually, and that's a really good question. Thank you. Yeah, usually in November, right through December to January. Sometimes we change them up, but most of the time it is in December, and it is always anywhere from 33 to 36 days, and it's once in a one go, and you can buy it in segments. But I have to say that it's such a top seller that we only started doing it about 5 years ago, and it's been such a huge seller because people want to see Darwin, Broome, and all the other sides. So yeah, it is, and I wish we could do it a little bit later in the spring, but it just doesn't fit into with our itineraries. And you never know in the future with the Allura class ships coming out in 2023, we may have two. We've got enough demand to fill two full around Australia. So thank you for asking that.
Yeah. And then we had another member that wrote into us actually before the presentation today. They were wondering when you expect to resume Mediterranean cruises.
Oh, that's a really good question. The honest answer is, everybody, that no one really knows when any of the ships are going to start sailing for any of the cruise lines. We're hoping in the spring. Right now, we've paused all our sailings right through April 30th of this year, and we're waiting for CDC. But the Mediterranean, and we have our schedules planned right from basically May right through. My gut feeling is that we'll hear more in the next few weeks of more reality, of the more real picture. I think once we get the okay from CDC to actually sail again, then you'll see a plan put in place for all the cruise lines to be able to sail. But my gut feeling is truly to be really safe. I would say late fall you'll be, and that's my favorite time to go to Europe. Is a great time to go as well. So it doesn't really answer your question specifically, Nathan, and I'm so sorry to the guest who asked that question, but we hope, we're all just keeping our fingers crossed that late spring will be able to give you some even bigger details.
Very good. Another member was asking about a specific ship, the Nautica. When I think you said at the beginning of the presentation that it was going to start or be done in the
Yes.
spring.
Well, our ships are parked all over the world right now. And by the way, we've got ships delivering staff back to the ship and things like that. So things are moving. They're just not sailing right now. And because, there's so many safety protocols in place now for all our staff as well, everything's a big learning curve. The big thing is that the Nautica was the only ship. It was supposed to be done this last year in 2020, and we postponed it when we parked her in Dubai. That's where she is. And so she is scheduled for June or early July, and she will be done before we set sail with her again. And that, we've got Holy Land cruises in the fall, late fall, that we're hoping to be able to operate on the Nautica. So it just depends on where we can go with the ship, but the ship will be completely re-inspired. And she is truly, if you have not seen one of our small ships live, I only wish I could do a ship visit with you right now on the regatta that's parked in Oregon, because it's so incredibly beautiful. But they were all re-inspired this in 2019, and the Nautica will be done in June or July this year before she sets sail. And same with Marina. Marina is also having a refit before she sails.
That's funny that you mentioned the regatta. I was actually in Astoria last week and saw her in dock.
Oh.
A member had asked a question about when she will be departing Astoria. Do you have that information?
No, because again, I hate to say, being a Canadian, our borders are closed right now. So we're waiting in Astoria because we could by chance go into the Pacific early, or we could come up to Alaska if the borders open. So she's just kind of waiting, and we're all, as all the industry is, waiting to hear from CDC whether we get the green light to sail or not, and if the borders open. So we don't really know. We're hoping, again, we're hoping for spring for sure with the regatta.
And then There was a question that came in about single supplement. So do single
Mhm.
travelers get a break
Oh,
on a room instead of
thank
paying
you
for
for
two?
asking that. Okay, so normally, and it's funny because when I can see you in person, I usually say to people, if people say, well, they ask me this all the time, what about single supplements? And I go, oh, most of it. For most of our sailings, it's 200%, it's double. Now, when I say that, don't freak out because within that double, there's a whole bunch of savings pulled out based on two people sailing, and then we make it single. But we have a single supplement flyer, and I think one of them I sent you, Nathan, has got about maybe 16 sailings on it at 150% single supplement. So now instead of 200%, it's 50%. We don't have the capacity because the demand of travel is there for late 21 into 22. We don't have the capacity to offer less than that. But again, this is one thing I will always say about the AAA. They will phone me and say, is there anything you can do to get the single price from 200% to 150 or 125%? I will always ask, and sometimes the answer is no, sometimes the answer is yes. But we do have some single supplements on sale right now. When we build the new Allura class, I'm really keeping my fingers crossed. And I don't know this for sure, but I really, really hope we're going to have some single staterooms. But one thing I can tell you about singles on our ship, and if you have been a single guest on our ship, you'll know what I'm talking about. Every single guest on our ship, whether you're a kid or whether you're a couple or whatever it is, we take care of you like you're an individual guest in our home. So with singles, we always, in every restaurant we have out of our 4 to 6 restaurants on board, 6 restaurants in Marina and Riviera, 4 restaurants on the smaller ships. We always have one table for singles at night if you want that. If you want to be seated with a couple or just by yourself at a single table, we have that too. We always, always, always take care of you. We have cocktail parties about 3 or 4 times on a 12-day cruise just for our single guests, just so you can meet other people. And because it's such a small ship, you will always meet people at Martini's Bar and the bistro. It's wonderful, and people are so friendly anyway. Our guests are super friendly. So singles are some people that are very, very important. They're a segment of our cruise market that's very important to Oceania. So, but we'll always ask for you, no matter what. Did I
Excellent.
give you that flyer, Nathan? Did I give you the
I'm not
single
seeing it
supplement?
as an attachment,
Oh,
but I
okay.
know that
I'm going to. Okay, I'll
oh,
send that to you.
and our travel professionals do have access to it.
Right.
So if you are interested in traveling solo, our travel team does have that information. So just bring that out to your travel professional, and they can help you out, and we can pull some ropes with Kathy and see if she can help us out a little bit.
Absolutely. I've got so much power. No, I'm only kidding.
And then
I can only ask.
my last question that came in today, Kathy, was on individuals that have future cruise credits. They just wanted to know when they need to book by and when they can travel, or when they need to travel by if they
Well,
have cruise
so
credits.
that's a really good question too, Nathan. Thanks for asking. Future cruise credits they do vary depending on when the pause of our operation happened, but most of them have a booking deadline. A booking deadline. You have to book your cruise by December 31st this year in 2021 to sail by December 31st, 2022. So you've got a lot of options there. We can't extend anything past 2022 because we don't have our itineraries out yet. So we're only making that kind of a no exception thing. You have to sail by the end of 2022. There's so many beautiful sailings all over the world. And by the way, this also reminds me, we have a digital calendar. When you go online, and AAA can give this to you too, it'll show you all of the destinations we have and all of the duration of each cruise and the things that we do that are really incredible. So through that, your FCCs are like cash. And some of you have got FCCs that are worth 125% of the fare because you chose to keep the FCC instead of taking a refund. So those are the kinds of things we can help you with at AAA. And the advisors always will work with me if there's anything else we can add. So or help you with. So again, you've got basically till December 2022 to sail with us.
Fantastic. Well, that is all the questions I have in my question box. Do you have anything you want to
Oh.
say before we wrap up today?
Well, other than just I was saying, earlier, I look at cruising and I think, gee, I just can hardly wait to go back to some of these beautiful destinations of ours. I think we're all just so cooped up as a nation and as a North America and the world that I think when the doors do open up, it's going to be a really big splash, and I know it's going to be really fantastic for you. When I was watching all of your beautiful inauguration yesterday and all the pomp and circumstance, I thought, you know, I just want to wear a beautiful skirt and heels again. You know, I can hardly wait to go on a cruise to kind of dress up beautifully
Dress
and
up.
casually. But it, you know, again, just to really reiterate, Oceania is one of those cruise lines, and I think I really love it for many reasons. But I love it because when you're on that ship, you feel like you're in someone's home. We have libraries with fireplaces. We have beautiful little bars and tiny little rooms. Because it's small, there's no kind of essence of that kind of stuffiness. It's a very casual, beautiful product. But it's done in such a way that, you know, we have probably the world's highest ratio of return guests to Oceania because it is such a personal experience. And so, you know, every single cruise line does such an amazing job with what they have. I love all the cruise lines, but there is something after 12 years of being with Oceania that I just can't get enough of this little line. They do things that are right. They do things that are really, really good for you. And we're partners. We're partners with our guests. We know that what they are looking for, and so you know, the value is packed in there. And I know, Nathan, you guys do such a fantastic job of being able to match the perfect product to your guests. So thank you for all the business that you do for us. You're such a huge partner to Oceania, and I just want to thank you publicly because you guys really know what you're talking about. And for all the guests that are on the line, thank you so much for coming today. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm so sorry I've taken so much of your time here. But I'll let you go with that. And thank you. Come and join our Oceania family.
Yeah, thank you again, Kathy, for being on the call, and thank you again for our members for joining us today. If you think of any questions after the call today, definitely reach out to us at AAA. We're here to help. Any of the ways you can contact us there, and we're more than happy to help you start planning your future travels. So thank you again for joining, and I hope that you have an excellent evening, and hopefully we can see you very, very soon.
Thanks
Take
so
care.
much, Nathan. Yeah, thanks everybody.